When your current reality doesn't meet your expectations, you begin to blame. And then you start beat yourself up. Then you start feeling guilt. Then you start feeling shame. And that's like the lowest form of connection, because guilt and shame just poisons your soul.
This is Vivian Villacis.
And this is Raul Villacis.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the God, Money, and Sex podcast. My name is Raul Villacis, and I'm here with my queen.
That's right. My name is Vivian Villacis. I'm so happy to be here with you all.
All right, so today's topic is
expectations versus reality.
I think one of the biggest challenges that couples go through in their marriage is just trying to meet each other's expectations.
It's such a big thing, right? Because so it could be something that so let's just start off, because it could be like a heavy topic of like the expectations that we have, especially in a relationship. So we're talking to you from a perspective of being married for the last 24 years. And, you know, marriages, relationships, they really show you so much about yourself and about, you know, what to expect in the relationship. So on the lighter note, let me just tell you, like, Raul and I go on date nights, and we've made this something to, you know, become something regular, a part of our life, something that we enjoy to do with each other. And
it's like religiously, we have to have a date night every single week.
Everybody
been consistent for the past 7 years.
A couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, at least 5 years. I give it 5 years consistently doing date nights every single week.
And I think it's something that maybe we should incorporate this into like our kings and queens to like share a little bit about this, because it's so funny. So the reason why I want to share this is because, you know, Raul and I really put thought into it. We make it very intentional when we go on date night. We enjoy each other's times, but there are times where there's expectations versus the reality of things. So last week it was so cute because you know, had the intention, thought it through. You made reservations to one of my favorite restaurants by the water. This place is just absolutely stunning. It's organic, farm to table. But right now I'm doing a challenge and I'm not eating gluten. And in there they make pizza and I can't have any. So it was like, that was my first thing. And I was like, oh. Then we get to this beautiful restaurant. We're there. We walk in, the setting is just absolutely perfect. This is the reason why I love this restaurant. Like, it's live music, it's by the water. So then the lady has us wait and we go outside, and she sat us in this, to me, was the perfect table. By the water, the wind is blowing in my hair and it's just like blowing in the right way in my hair. And I just feel like, oh my gosh, everything about it is so absolutely perfect. Like, this is my expectation of what, you know, this dinner could look like. And then the reality of it is that I turn around and I see you, and you weren't really having a good time. Like, I already sense the tightness that was in your body. And it's just, you know, everything about it was just like, oh, this is not it for me. So,
but first of all, I'm trying to look at the menu, and the wind is blowing. So there's so much wind, we can't even stay there.
The wind wasn't in your favor.
And it's like the water is spilling. And the couple next to us, like the wine like spilled. So I already saw heads up of what it's gonna look like. They bring the food and everything was gonna be a mess. And
it was all about your hair, because the wind was not blowing in your favor, was blowing on mine. So then that's fine. Then I'm like, okay, Raul, if you're not happy, then let's go inside. Thinking we're gonna have this like, okay, beautiful table inside, because the restaurant is also just as beautiful inside as it's outside. And they go and they sit us next to this wall, like a brick wall, because that's the building, is an all building, a brick wall. And I'm like, this is not it for me. Like, this is like really what we don't like, you know. Everything about it, like the ambience, was just not it for me. And then there was parts of me that I wanted to get mad, and I wanted to just say like, just forget it, let's just go home, this is not it for us, it didn't work out, we'll call it a night, we'll just go home. And it was like, oh, okay, there's parts of me that I have to learn to compromise. And it's like, well, I'm not really here for the food, I'm not here for the restaurant, I'm not here for any of that. I'm here for you, for like the company, for the quality time that we get to spend with each other. And I just really had to catch myself and then like, okay, become aware of it and then let it go. So for me, that was like a huge thing of like, okay, this expectation of what we have, the way that my ideal woman wants to kick in, this perfectionist of like the way that it has to look like, and then the reality of things. And the reason why I bring that up is on a lighter note, it's because we could get so hung up when it comes to a relationship, when it comes to like expectations versus the reality of things, of like, what are you living right now in your life?
Because at the end of the day, once we got to the place we could actually have the food
Date
without
night?
without the wind blowing everywhere,
Stop it.
we actually started to see that we're sitting next to live music. Like, hear a beautiful singer in there. Like, we have to learn how to reframe everything that's going on in our lives, because whenever things don't go according to our expectations, three things happen. Number one is you blame. You start blaming. You're blaming
I
your
was blaming
partner.
you. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's just ruined it for me right now.
You're blaming other people. So you start blaming, right? That's where you go.
Right.
When your current reality doesn't meet your expectations, you begin to blame. And then you start beat yourself up. Then you start feeling guilt. Then you start feeling shame. And that's like the lowest form of connection, because guilt and shame just poisons your soul.
Yeah.
But then the last part is when you start realizing, okay, if life is not giving me what I want, what is life giving me?
And what can I do with what's in front of me right now?
What can I see right now? And that's when you start reframing it to start looking at the gift. Look at the gift. At the end of the day, we had a great time.
Yes.
Once we got out of our own way
Yes.
to try to have a
Absolutely.
perfect, like I wanted to have like a perfect setting. You wanted to have a perfect setting. But now, once we got each other our own way, we actually were able to meet each other's expectations.
That's right. And it's just like, having that awareness to know what is really going on in front of you. Because I think if anything else, like what relationships do for us, or what this relationship does for me, especially I speak for myself, it really allows me to grow. And, like our marriage has continued to evolve. And I think that's another thing about having like expectations, right? Like the way that we see marriage, how it should be, how sometimes we picture what a marriage should look like. And we've been married for 24 years. So our marriage has been evolving, and the marriage that you and I have, the relationship that you and I have, cannot be compared to somebody else because, for instance, I'm married to a entrepreneur who is running 100 miles an hour and doing events and serving people, and his purpose is so big that our marriage is not like this traditional marriage that like, oh, you work a 9 to 5 and it's just so different. So like in my mind, when we first got married, was like, oh, okay, our marriage is going to be like my parents' marriage. But that's not the reality of things. So when the expectation of what I thought the marriage was going to be like to the reality of who I'm really married to, which is this amazing businessman that runs 150 miles an hour, okay, that's the reality of things. Like I love and respect that part of you now, which I didn't understand before. And I was trying to, it really hurt me, in that place of like, oh God, my expectations were totally different than from what the marriage that I have, comparing it to whoever it is, your role models, social media, what you think a couple's goal is like or a marriage goal is like. And I think, that's one of the biggest things that for us, or for me, I should say, is knowing who and what my marriage is right now.
And understanding that is more about seeing how can we complement each other as opposed to how to compete with each other. I just had a conversation with my inner circle guys today. We had the mastermind, and some of them were like frustrated because like, hey, I'm going 100 miles an hour, but my wife is like, she doesn't understand.
She can't keep up.
She doesn't understand. She can't keep up. I'm focusing on painting the picture. And I said to them, have you considered seeing the world through her eyes? Have you considered putting yourself in her shoes and saying, like, I'm married to this intense guy who wants to conquer the world. It must not be easy. I said, like, sometimes I could have empathy for you because I know it can be easy to be married with somebody like me. Mm-hmm. So then I understand where a lot of women may look at their husbands like, how can you be like him? Can you be like this guy? And then you create a comparison game, right, as opposed to the complementing game. How can you complement each other? So I said, you got to put yourself in her shoes. You got to see that not everyone is operating at the level they want to operate. Not everyone wants to do what we do. Like living on the edge requires to have a certain amount of hunger and stamina for risks. Not everyone wants to take the risks. But if we don't take the risk, if we don't live on the edge, we don't feel alive. So that not every man operates that way. And a woman who's married to a guy that operates in that way is a completely different human as well. So you're not a normal woman, and entrepreneurs are not normal men. So when
Agreed.
you get together, instead of competing with each other, complement and support one another. Because that's exactly what I feel like as our relationship evolves, like I have nothing to hide. Like if I'm not happy in a fucking table, I'm telling you, I'm not happy here. And you ask me the questions like, do you want to move? I said, yeah. Because I didn't want to bend. Oh, I want to stay here for you, honey. I want to hear, knowing that I'm going to have a bad time, knowing that there's a solution out there that we could figure things out. So I'm in a place in my life that I don't want to bend. Like I know what I want. I know what I'm going for. I know the experience I want to have. And it's not perfect, but I know who I am. And because I know who I am, I could have a standard. Say, okay, this is what I want to experience. Let's look for that.
And sometimes that's the hard part for us as women to try to understand, because, you know, like we could be happy or content where we are. But with, I would say, you know, men just in general, like you, who know who you are, what you want, and you always want more. And not in a bad way, because it's like the table was perfect outside for me, but then you wanted something that was just good for both of us. And this is just an example. So it's like you won't bend, right? And that's kind of like, I read somewhere like an analogy or something, some sort of like a proverb even, that is said like, you know, when a storm comes, when tribulations come, a tree that is rigid would just break. The branches would break, probably just the roots would stay. But if a tree is one that can move and bend and just kind of just flow with the storm and the air and everything, it's going to survive that storm because it's just moving, it's swaying its way. And that's kind of like, you know, in a relationship, it's like if we learn to really just move as things happen and not become so rigid and said like, this is the way that it has to go, then I think that's, for us, it's working the best way, because there's times, and I'm not going to hide it, you know, our marriage is not always perfect. We have this like challenges, but we get out of that place so quickly now because we're not really we'll fight with each other, because there's times where, you know, like there's things that I need to voice, there's things that I stand for, and you do the same. But it's like, how do we come back and we see eye to eye and we honor and respect each other's differences and see the reality of things? And it's like, okay, how do we compromise and come to this place where it's like, I know that you love me and I love you. We're not each other's enemies. And how do we find a solution?
And I think that's the key part in this conversation, is finding the solution. So when your expectations are not being met, when your expectations are not being met, instead of blaming, finding the solution. I mean, you and I have an agreement that every single day that we do certain things to each other, we have to clean the space. And we don't drag things till tomorrow. Maybe we'll do something today and you upset me the next day. I'll feel a certain way. But as fast as possible, we need to voice it out. We need to clean the space. We need to have that conversation.
Right.
We need to speak our truth, because from that place of speaking your truth, you could actually find the gift.
And we're in a place right now where, like, it's not an expectation, right? It's like, I'm not expecting you to read my mind and to know what I'm feeling. I think that's probably the beginning of our marriage. But now it's like, I can't expect you to do that for me. The reality is that I need to learn how to communicate. And that's something that I've worked so hard in myself to like tell you how I feel without sugarcoating it, without feeling guilty or finding shame in the things that I want to ask for or tell you, because it's like, this is my truth. And I think that's part of like the reality of things, right? It's like, how do we bring this into the light, and not from a place of judgment, but from a place of like, okay, I got you. Like, I'm still not going to go anywhere, even if you look like this crazy mess right now, but this is your truth.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
And part of, in a relationship, you have to learn how to speak your truth without feeling that you are going to be shamed, without feeling that you're wrong, without feeling that you're going to be condemned. Like, if your partner cannot be honest with you and tell you how he feels, then he's gonna hide. Right. And what else is he hiding, right? And right before we started the podcast, I told Vivian, I said, like, I wanna share this video because there's a lot of controversy in this video that happened, because it just reminds me of our previous experiences too. It's about this actress, Keke Palmer, that went to an Usher concert, and she started dancing with Usher, and she's having this sexy dress. And then her husband went to Twitter and said, well, you're a mom, and look at the dress that you're wearing, right?
Oh shit.
And everybody,
her husband saying that about her.
Not her husband, sorry, her boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
Her boyfriend texted or posted in Twitter her video and say, "You're a mom, though. Look at the dress."
Oh.
So, what I saw there is a bunch of people going and attacking him because, like, what are you complaining about? You can't tell a woman what to dress. You can't, you can't do all these things, and you're not the husband, anyways. You're the boyfriend, right? So I want you to watch the video. So I don't know if the team could put that video. Daniel, could you put that video on the screen and let us know?
You tell us.
You haven't watched this, so I want to get your reaction. I
No.
want to see what you think about.
I feel sometimes I don't even know where I am. Like, I don't watch half the things that you get on social media. It's like, why? I don't get any of this stuff. What's going on? Oh, she's happy with him. I mean, it looks like she's wearing a bathing suit. Girl. But Usher is Usher, Oh, he came to hug her.
All right, so now you see what she was wearing, how she acted, and you said Usher is Usher, right? So I put myself in the guy's shoes, the boyfriend's shoes, right?
Yeah.
You love Mark Anthony, like Mark Anthony is your Usher, right?
Yeah, I mean, if he was to bring me out to dance, I don't think I would think twice. I'd be like, yeah, I'll go dance with Mark Anthony.
I wouldn't have any problem if you dance with Mark Anthony. But if you
I would not be kissing him.
Wearing that dress,
I would not be grinding
I would probably
him.
feel a certain way you going to dance or actually going out just wearing that. So like what I sympathize with the guy is like, you didn't know that she was going there, you didn't know she was wearing that, and if you did know, like, that's the communication that they need to have. It's like the standards, right? So how do we change the reality? It's like the standards, right? What are the standards? Would you go to a concert with a dress like that?
Oh God, that's a trick question. Listen, everybody could do with their body what they like. Sometimes women wear less at the beach.
That's true.
And it's
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
And she's going to a concert. Nowadays, the way that you show up out in the world, I don't know, it's all over the place. Like me personally, I wouldn't. I always think of like, how do I want to present myself? What do I want people to see first? Do I want them to see my boobs, or I want them to see me, like my heart and who I am? So everybody's different. So I'm no one to judge this woman. Maybe she wanted to get attention and wear like a beautiful dress and get the attention that maybe she's not getting at home. Like,
well, that's what I saw.
Who knows?
That's a pattern that I see there is, when first the guy shouldn't have posted on Twitter and handled that privately, right?
Right.
But in that private conversation is that where are her expectations not being met at home, or his standards?
Yeah, but then in a relationship, do you really want to belittle the person that you're with? Like that says a lot about the relationship in itself. Like, really, like you want to just throw her out there and just say those things?
And that's the part where as a man you have to handle that.
Oh God.
In private. With your women,
right?
When it comes to the standards, like, hey, I don't like the dress, or I don't like the video that you saw. Like, what can we do in the situation? Is figure out the core problem.
Yeah, and then look, that brings me to like how there's so many conversations that I have with like younger ladies, and they are showing themselves on social media, whether it's like a dance or everybody's like shaking their butt or doing something in front of social media. Like, why are you doing that? Because you want to get likes, because you want to get the attention, because you want to get the comments. the place where feminine women are right now is like we're not getting that from ourselves, so we are looking for an outside source to feel beautiful, to feel wanted, to feel desire, when it really has to come from a place of us. You know, like you asked me, would I wear that? Most likely not, because I could wear that in the privacy of my own home for my man, and it's like
I could role play. I could be Usher. You could wear that.
You could sing to me and I'll dance, and it's like I feel beautiful, but I don't need to go to an outside source to feel that beauty, to feel that significance. And that's something like women, you know, like I can't judge her because I don't know what she's feeling. I don't know what she's looking for. But again, going back to this younger ladies, is like, how do we show this younger generation to like have self-love for ourselves and not to look for that in an outside source?
So we're going to a Drake concert with the kids next week. And then Abigail showed me what her outfit was going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not wearing that. So that, like, you know, like you coming with me as your dad. I am not going to take you to a concert with an outfit like that. If you go by yourself when you're 18 years old, now I sound like the dads on the TikToks, right? When you're 40 years old, you can have this. No, like when you come in with me, like I can't see myself like allowing you to wear that. And you know, and she's like, you can't allow me that. It's my body. I said, yes, but I could help you see the standards that we live by. I could help you see what we represent.
Yeah.
And that's where, as a man of the family, we have to have a standard. Like, this is what I see, and this is what men are going to see. And when men are very visual, and if you're wearing that means that you're looking for something. And you're going to attract that. You're going to attract the things that you put out there.
It's also a stage that they go through as younger ladies, you know, like you're looking for that. That's part of you growing up, is like just feeling beautiful and showing off, you know, your body is, I mean, your body is so beautiful and so perfect. It's like, yeah, but we really need to know
but you have to,
and have that.
You have to know also the consequences. If you show up your body, and this is what happens. You know, Usher comes down and starts singing to you, and then you have problems with your man because this happens. Like,
well, I think Usher does it to a lot of women.
But I'm saying, like, if you're in a partnership and you're coming out together, you're gonna attract attention. Mm-hmm. So if I bring my daughter to the Drake concert and she's wearing that outfit, what?
She's probably hoping that Drake could see her, bring her up on stage.
Drake most likely is not, but a bunch of other guys are, and then it's gonna have to be some altercation.
But in her mind,
I'm not gonna let other guys try to do certain things.
But
and then so that's the consequence. Like, don't put your man in a situation where things could go wrong.
And then I'm sure you had that conversation with her with the most utter respect and intention to say, like,
so that's the thing.
Right?
I didn't have to have a conversation because my son had a conversation with her.
She has two dads.
And then my son is the one who was actually like he could speak to her in her language, so she could understand. Like, you don't want to escalate it to this. Like, these are the consequences. And I think that a lot of women don't understand there's consequences by attracting that much attention if you are in a relationship. Now, if you're single, go do what you have to do. Go shake your ass, dance with whoever you want to dance. But if you're in a relationship, there's another guy too. I was sharing with you, Jonah Hill, right? That he recently got married, and the ex girlfriend texted, or not actually published in a magazine, the text that he sent her, and the text. I think I took a screenshot there. And the text was really clear, which.
So this is something that he texts his
ex. He texts his ex. He said, like, plain and simple. Okay. If you need surfing with men, boundaries and appropriate friendships with men, to model, to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, to post sexual pictures, friendships with women who are in unstable places, and from your wild past, beyond getting lunch or coffee or something respectful, I am not the right partner for you. If these things bring you to a place of happiness, I support it. And there will be no hard feelings. These are my boundaries for romantic relationships. I mean, that guy was clear. And then people are saying, man, he was insecure, he's toxic. I just think that men need to be clear about their boundaries, be clear about what they want.
Men and women need
so
to be
that
clear.
way the women will like, okay, you know what? I'm going to be with a guy who has these standards, who has these values, these principles. And if you want to be together, be together.
And that's kind of also like having your own boundaries. It's like what you want in a relationship. And especially when I ask women about boundaries, like, do you have boundaries? And some of them do. And then the ones that do are afraid or don't want to voice it to their spouse, because it's like, well, if I tell him, he's not going to like it, he's not going to love me, so let me just erase this imaginary line of my boundary, and I'm just going to forget it was even here because I want him to love me. But that's what I kind of allow them to see, like, when you have those boundaries, you're actually loving yourself, and he will love you, respect you even more for that. And I think that's kind of one of the things that we often hear about the expectations versus the reality of, like, are you responsible for making your spouse happy? You know, and that's like this crazy expectation that you have to make your spouse, partner, lover happy. But the truth is, the reality of it is like, you make yourself happy. Like, your happiness, your content, your fulfillment comes from yourself. And that's something that we in relationships, like, put that to the side, and we feel like, okay, you got to make me happy, and everything that I do or say, like, revolves around you. And that's not the reality of things.
The problem with you, when your expectations don't meet your reality, then you start arguing with reality. Mm-hmm. He should do this. She should do that. She shouldn't have worn this. She should have said this. And then you all of a sudden you're shitting all over yourself because you're focusing on the shoulds, right?
Right.
But then part of the solution is change your mindset. Manage your state. You are responsible for your happiness. If that happened, it's because you didn't have that conversation.
That's right.
If your woman is out there dressed in a certain way, it's because you didn't have that conversation, or you're not voicing your conversation, or you're not having the uncomfortable conversation of, like, what are the expectations, or what are the standards?
Yes.
So if you don't manage your stage, you're gonna constantly argue with reality.
And then it goes back to also what we talk about, you know, having this clear communication. It's something that doesn't happen until, like, this happens. Like, oh, okay, my girlfriend is on stage and she's wearing this and acting this way. Like, maybe we didn't have this conversation about, like, where are we in the relationship? Where are we going in this relationship? Maybe that, you know, he failed as a man to say that to her, like, hey, this is what's happening in our relationship. I mean, it's just like those clear communications, and so much could get lost when we don't have that.
Well, we're not clear about
the reality check.
We're not clear about what we want. We're not clear about who we are and who we're becoming. You know, part of having standards is knowing, okay, your standards are, your job as a leader, I'm talking to the man, is to raise the standards. But if you don't speak what your standards are, you're gonna lower the standard. You're gonna lower your standards for your woman. True. You're gonna lower your standard for your daughter. You're gonna lower the standards for people around you. Then you're gonna lose yourself, and that's what's happening right now. Men are lowering their standards because I want to be my daughter's friend. I don't want to be the enemy. I don't want to argue with my wife. I don't know what my friends will say. No,
correct.
You got to take a stand. And these are my standards. This is what I stand for. These are my values, and go from there. Continue to raise your standards, not bend to other people's standards.
So, and then I hear you say that, but I also, like, if you're watching this or listening to this, it comes from a place, you know, our relationship especially comes from a place that is not just like, okay, these are like my standards. I think that you also always have the best intention as a whole for the kids.
I look at my standards from God's standards. Mm-hmm. Like I fear God. And I think that's what a lot of men are missing, is that fear of God. The fear, like, you fear men more than you fear God. And you fear what people will say about you, but you don't fear God. You fear how people will see you, but you don't fear God. For me, my values and my principles are based on fearing God and knowing that God is the one who's put me in charge of my family to guide my family. And my responsibility is to make sure my kids end up being, you know, adults and humans that bring value. My responsibility is to make sure that my queen is taken care of, to support each other. Like, that's where if you fear God, if you fear what people will say more than you fear God, you have the wrong worldview.
You're off balance.
You're off balance on who you are.
That's right. And again, it goes, you know, for me, like, the expectations, I think sometimes we lower our expectations, but I think that because they're not met, right? It's like, oh, I had this expectation, it wasn't met, so then I'm going to lower the standard or not ask for it. I believe that in a marriage that continues to grow, as you grow, your expectations should continue to grow. Because, you know,
as your standards get higher, your expectations change.
As you know that you're worthy of more in a relationship, like, you would grow. And having that gut check of, like, okay, is this really true, not just for me, but for both of us, right? Like, a simple example, like expectation of like, we're growing in our relationship. So I expect your capacity also grows, your capacity to love and to give. So I'm expecting that we won't just have a date night every once in a month, but we're going to have a date night every week because our capacity has grown. Your capacity to have conversations and to love me and to be with me has grown. So that's my expectation. Are you in the same place where you can meet that expectation? Or is there something that I need to do to help you get there?
And it all starts from also communicating the expectation.
Right.
And putting apart from each other. And again, complementing, not competing. Complementing each other to get to that
enhancing
standards,
each other.
Enhancing the experience. And not beating each other down or blaming. Because that's what happens. When your expectation don't meet your reality, you start to blame and you start to feel guilt and shame. And that's what destroys that connection.
And it's funny because I have these conversations with women all the time. I do coaching for women, and I tell them like, we got to step into this queen mentality. And sometimes I hear this conversation, they're like, well, I'm too much. I'm asking for too much. It's almost like I don't deserve it. But I tell them like, once you have this time with yourself and know like, this is not just selfishly like an arrogant way of asking for things, but it's like it's going to have an outcome that is not just good for me, but for the both of us. So it comes from the best place in you. And then when you ask for that, it's not from the princess that throws a tantrum, from this queen that sees like the bigger picture of it. So my expectations has actually grown, and I'm okay with that because it's not too much. And can we both work on that expectation and for me not to feel short of it? And
in order for you not to feel short, you have to appreciate
what you have in front of you.
Appreciate what you have in front of you.
That's
you have
so
to
true.
Appreciate who you are. You have to appreciate your partner. Because if you don't have the appreciation, you're constantly going to try to chase the next level and the next level. And you're going to think you're going to be happy one day, but that day never comes.
Enough.
If you don't appreciate the level that you're in right now, you're never going to appreciate the next level.
And that's like, how God tells us, like, be content with what you have in front of you. And I think that's like a beautiful thing that you bring up, because like when we're content with what we have, then he will give us more.
You can't have more unless you appreciate what you have.
So true.
So thank you for joining us in this conversation of your expectations meeting reality. I think this could be a long conversation, but at the end of the day, break the pattern of blaming each other, break the pattern of feeling guilt and shame, and just start appreciating what you have, appreciating the fact that you have a partner, that you have an opportunity, that you're here alive, and you have each other to help each other connect and complement, not compete. Appreciate every single one of you. Make sure that you follow, you subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. We'll see you next time. Learn it,
live it, experience it, love life.
If you receive any value from this conversation, comment, subscribe, and share as we continue to impact more people and take it to the next level.
And please send us your comments and questions so we could answer them in the next podcast.
See you in the next episode.